just stumbled upon a new video that Amateur Magus made. Dave from Amateur Magus. Now, while I have never met the guy personally, that's kind of besides the point. I am going to talk a little bit about something that a lot of beginners do. And something a lot of beginners do, particularly when said beginners are desperate, in some kind of state of desperation. I need to find somewhere to put my microphone because I'm out in public right now, and if you hear the little pieces of plastic or metal rattling around, that's why. So something that I see a lot of beginners do is, well, being desperate, and that's usually what gets people into this kind of stuff in the first place, particularly in regards to making contracts. And that's kind of the first taste that people get of the occult. As they'll hear stories about people that got a bit under the weather as well. They got pretty rich and famous off of, doing magic or calling upon spirits or making contracts. So a lot of new occultists, when they're desperate, they'll enter into a contract. They'll call upon some spirit, and, even then, a lot of them will do Solomonic magic. They'll call upon the spirit and command them and go into contracts or whatever. Now, either way, regardless of how you do it, whether you, just go directly to them and worship them and, bend to their every will, or you do more of the commandment method, which you call upon angels and invoke the god names to sort of help you, gain authority over the demons or spirits or whatever. You're gonna have to do a lot of upkeep, and people usually go into this kind of fully aware of what the implications are and what it entails. The main problem that I see people run into usually later on is either not sticking with their end of the deal, which usually is rectified pretty quickly. They'll kind of figure out what's going wrong, they'll rectify it, and then, well, things will get back to being good, or at least normal, whatever their version of normal is. Now, the biggest, and it's actually a pretty common mistake that I see people make, is the mistake of regret. So it's something along the lines of, I'll give a good example. So-and-so wants to be rich and famous. So-and-so calls upon a demon. They say some god names, do a ritual, make a contract, and, well, they get rich and famous. And then, maybe a decade or, and then some down the line, they get bored of being rich and famous. They just want to, settle in and have an easy life and just kind of, be all laid back. Well, too late, because you kind of got what you asked for, and now you say you don't want it. Well, it's too late, buddy. You kind of entered into this contract. You got what you asked for, so now you have to keep up on it. And this is why you see a lot of celebrities, doing what they do well into their 70s and 80s. And this is also why you see a lot of celebrities end up getting sort of these accusations put against them sometime in the future, which, mind you, may or may not be true. Aside from maybe small handfuls of video evidence and, some pictures that I've seen with, people doing things or being with other people, such as, a president of the United States, hanging out with a rich and famous person, or, a rich and famous person, spending time with a politician or something along those lines, and, maybe a video about a guy doing some pretty, obviously abusive things to a woman. I'm being vague and I'm leaving out names because I'm not here to drop names or make accusations or to say that whatever is claimed to happen was true or not true. Just saying. Now, regardless, this is kind of one of the consequences of not keeping up with your contracts, or worse, regretting your contract. It's like, well, you got what you asked for, so now you don't want it anymore? Well, too bad. You got to keep up on it. Regretting what you got is not an excuse for a refund. You know, buyer's remorse, that's not grounds for getting a refund. It's not how it works. It's not like you buy an iPhone and you don't like the color of the iPhone, so you try to return it. Now, mind you, if you ended up getting something that you weren't quite expecting, or it wasn't as it was advertised, then yes, you get a refund. You can make a claim. You can even get compensation for it. You know, that product ends up causing some kind of injury. However, for the most part, it's not exactly how it works. Now, the other mistake that I see people make, and this isn't really in regards to desperation, this is more so just in regards to kind of not really expecting much, just kind of how the magic works. So, I'll give you an example of mine, personal experience. I got into scrying a bit, a few years back when I was pretty new to the occult. I thought it looked nice. It kind of creates, the vibe of that somberness and ceremonial magicness and the whole whatnot. So I got into it, did some talismans, did some scrying, burned incense. Pretty new occultist stuff. Mind you, I did know a bit about the Bible and about astrology and the Quran and the Torah, and I had a pretty rudimentary understanding of the scripture and about King Solomon. And mind you, the experiences were pretty intense. I had some pretty wild dreams and synchronicities after my scrying sessions. Now, typically I didn't experience much during the scrying sessions, but afterwards I would, end up waking up in cold sweat and wondering, where the hell am I? Then eventually realizing that I'm just stuck in a dream, and that I did in fact have a cold sweat because I woke up in my bedroom, and then kind of realizing that, well, it was just a dream. So, another mistake that I've made was actually, as before mentioned, the mistake of me sort of regretting what I got, or kind of trying to take back what I had. Didn't work too well, came close to losing my sanity, lost a lot of money, had damages to my health, got caught up in some legal stuff, which, did affect my job. However, even though I, was found innocent and everything, and, didn't really have to do a whole lot as far as, penalties go, it kind of screwed with my job, and it cost me a lot of time and money. Now, am I saying this is a result of, me not following my contracts, or me even regretting my contracts? No, it's not. I'm sure it had a role to play in it. And that's sort of step one. So yeah, there you go. Careful what you ask for, or what you wish for. And I actually think I mentioned that on Amateur Magus's video about things that beginner occultists do. And so now, I want to say a third major problem that I see new occultists do is somehow coming in with the wrong mindset. Yeah, you try and do baneful magic or punish people, or you're sort of being judgmental. Well, mind you, in the scripture, it's pretty clear that it says, "Judge not, lest ye be judged. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord," so on and so forth. And mind you, Frederick Xavier talks about this. Dot Darling, not so much. She just kind of gives you little 101s on everything. And yeah, that's about it. So I think that'll wrap it up for this video. See you all soon.